Hello everyone, welcome to EduTap. So in today's success story session, we have with us Mr. Deepak, who has already cleared NABARD Grade A and UPSC CAPF exam, and now he has cleared the RBI Grade B. So we will be understanding the journey of his, and then we will be going to the strategy. So first, hello sir,
Good
congratulations for
morning.
clearing RBI Grade B.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so now can you tell something to the aspirants about your journey, like background and the journey?
So I'm a graduate in mechanical engineering, 2016 batch. Then since there were not many jobs in the my core field, I joined a software company. I worked there a little over a year. And in mid 2017, I realized that this is not my cup of tea, and I want to do something for the nation. Like I want to work towards nation building. And I come from a rural background, farming household. So I think working with any organization that has more to do with people's doing for their welfare, I thought would be a good start. And so I started preparing for CAC. That this is back in 2018, and I gave my first attempt. I didn't clear the pre. So I was a bit demoralized, and I didn't know what to do. And there's a lot of pressure. So I thought I'll start with basic exams first. So this is how in 2019 I started preparing for banking exams, and in 2019 December I cleared SBI clerk. Okay, so I got my joining letter in Jan 2019, 2020, and then I did not take that job because I thought I can do much better. Then again, I cleared NABARD development assistant. Again, I did not take that job, and I prepared for a higher exam. So I cleared IBPS PO in February 2019, and I got Bank of Maharashtra. And the joining was this was during Corona. The joining came, so I decided not to risk my life, and I decided to continue studying. So in 2019, I again gave UPSC CAPF, and the timeline was like there were a lot of uncertainties in that exam, and it was very delayed. So along with that, I gave other exams also, and I cleared NABARD grade A in 2020, and the results came out in February of 2021, and UPSC CAPF also I cleared. That also the results came out in March of 2021. Then again, I decided, okay, let's not stop here. Let's go a bit further. So I've got a job in NABARD. Now let's try its parent organization. So I went for RBI grade B, and I started preparing and gave the pre-mains and the interview recently. When the results were out, so I cleared RBI grade B as well. So yeah, I think I'm not gonna stop right here, and I'm gonna continue like try for something even higher. But right now, yeah, I'm gonna take up this job right now.
Okay, so like you have a vast experience of many exams and you knew your capability. You knew that I can do much better. And that's
Yes.
why you continued preparing. Like
Yes.
otherwise maybe someone else would have thought that NABARD Grade A is like a very good organization and they would have stayed there only and would have stopped preparing for some other exam. So
Yes, ma'am. I think it's a matter of privilege that I am privileged. I'm thankful to my parents that I'm capable enough to skip such jobs and continue preparing. But there are many who can't, and I think it would be a right decision to take up whatever job they get and then continue preparing. Not everyone are in the same situation.
yes.
But yeah, it's a
Yes.
personal choice.
Yes, but there should be a determination to continue also.
Yes, that is necessary.
That is necessary. Any learning that you got from all these exams that you were giving, like for the aspirants, any message?
Yeah, so I think it is very important to know what is the demand of the exam and what are your capabilities, or rather, what are your skill sets. So, introspection is very important. So, after I failed so these are the only exams that I told you I've cleared some 5, 6 exams. But apart from this, I've failed at least 10 to 12 exams. So, I've given LIC, AAO, ADO, EPFO exams, then RRB, PO. I've failed a lot of them. So I tell by experience that you need to know your capabilities first. Secondly, if once you introspect and know your shortcomings, you should work on them. So whatever are your shortcomings, like I was not so good at apti. So I come from a civil services background. For me, banking was something new. So where apti is, it carries a lot of weightage. So I had to work a lot on that instead of working on English or some reasoning, which I think is my strong point. So working on your shortcomings, first is that. Secondly, knowing what the exam is demanding. If a particular exam is demanding certain skill sets such as communication, or so if you're going for regulatory exams, there's a aspect of manpower management that you should know, which is something they see in the interview. So I think you should develop communication skills for that. So I think there are certain things which you should try to inculcate and build a good CV or your resume biodata, which they ask for before the interview, just before you start preparing, and start early, which I would say, like a lot of, like I used to do this, like I used to wait for the notification to come out and then start preparing for the exam. So that I think is a not an appropriate method. You should start early. So even if people who are studying for RBI this year should start preparing immediately and not wait for the notification or see the vacancies. There are people who discuss there are less vacancies and all that. You just need one seat. So just even if RBI is giving out one seat, you should prepare. So vacancies, notification, you should just start preparing, have that determination, and start early as possible.
So yes, so the message is like you should know, you should introspect yourself, and you should know your shortcomings, and you
Yes.
should work on that. So that was a nice thing to say, and that was really like nice to understand also, because if we introspect and if we understand our own shortcomings, then only we will be able to like do something to like cover it and do something to like progress. Okay, so now I think we can start with the strategy part of phase 1, phase 2, and the interview. So we will be starting with the phase 1.
Right.
So in phase 1, as you said that you are like weak in the apti part, like in maths and these reasoning, I can say. So like many people are afraid of maths. They're like, yeah, we can't do it.
So was I.
Yeah. So how did you like put the mindset that no, I can do it, and if I prepare, I can do it?
So first, whichever exam you give, you start with a notification. You should see what is the pattern, what is the marking scheme, what is the time allotted to each section. And thirdly, there's always a syllabus portion which clearly defines, say, so if we are talking about quants, APTI, there are clearly defined 20 subheads or 20 topics from which questions will be asked. Now, what I would do is I would go through those 20 lists. So there will be percentage, comparison, or number series, whatever. So you go through that and you find out, okay, this I know, or I have a fair idea. This I don't know at all. So the things that you're very weak in, or you haven't heard or haven't tried a question, you should focus on them first. So how do you know where you're weak and where you're not? First, give a mock. So solving mock is the key here. So give a mock, you'll know which questions you're able to solve, you're not, or not able to solve. And the ones that are not able to solve at all, then you should focus on them. What people do is the questions that you are able to solve, they focus more on that because it gives you a feel good factor. But no, you should focus more on your weak shortcomings. And if you're starting very fresh, start with very basic, such as start with tables. What are the numbers, types of numbers, number series? No, I had to start from there. This might sound funny to some of the candidates, but yeah, you have to start from the basics first, learn the tables, learn squares, cubes, and then you go on to solving. Time saving is the key, and such things come in handy. So I think, yeah, start with the basics and then move on to the advanced topics, but then focus more on your shortcomings.
Yeah. Like if I was there, I would have to start from the number system itself. Like
Yes.
What is rational number? What is irrational number? Because maths is very weak in many of the students. So for those who has a weaker part in the math section and they think that they won't be able to clear, or like it's very like in me also, if I'm going to try, then my first point will be I'm weak in this. Maybe I won't be able to clear. So that shouldn't be the mindset. If you are preparing for something, you should be like, you should also focus on the weaker sections. Yes, sir. So now, like the quant, can you tell the sources for quant reasoning and English?
Okay, for English, there's no source. Like there's always any like online you get on YouTube. If any specific topic that you're finding difficult, And for quant, again, solving mock is the only way ahead. Like, there's no source as such. So as many mocks you solve, you get to know what topics you're lagging. And suppose, so I cannot solve number series problems, questions on number series. So I'll just go to YouTube and check certain short 30-40 minutes video on number series advanced level. And I'll go through them, see how they're solving, what is the method, and then try to implement it. But there's no alternative to solving mocks. And in reasoning, again, there are a set number of question sets which come, like there are set number of types of problem which come. So again, you have to realize what you can't solve, whether you can't solve the circular table problem or the linear arrangement, and whichever you can't solve, you have to work on them. Try to solve as many questions, because after a point, if you have solved so many questions, the questions get repetitive. So there you get an edge. Now you know what is the next. So that is more important. And secondly, when you're in that exam condition, a very important thing is that you read the question very thoroughly. That I think, with the time constraint and all, candidates neglect this aspect of reading, and one you miss one step in reasoning and the entire problem, like you end up wasting 15-20 minutes in that. So sources for quant, if you want to start, there's always that Arihant textbook you get for quant. I'm forgetting the name. But yeah, that is a good way to start. In reasoning, I think solving mocks, and then whichever particular topic that you want, you can do an online lecture on that on any of the platforms on YouTube.
Okay.
But yes,
So-
time management and knowing where are your shortcomings is the key. And secondly, depending on the marking scheme, also you have to prioritize. So this year, RBI gave time slots to each section, which it usually didn't. So now you know that reasoning has 60 marks and GA has 80 marks. So you should focus more on those sections rather than focusing on English or quant, because English and quant, again, most of the candidates I know, they have received almost just above the cutoff of individual cutoff of English and quants. So here you have to be more focused towards more scoring sections such as GA and reasoning. So you have to decide your strategy accordingly.
Okay, so we understood that the sources that you followed were like mocks. You were giving many and many mocks so that you understand that where your shortcoming falls, and then from there you were able to like continuously solve it, like continuously practice, and then you were able to be better in it. So we can solve mocks and we can understand that what type of questions come and where to start, where to focus on. Okay. So, and the other thing that you told was the Arihant book that you were saying that the people can also refer to that book.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now coming to the GA part, in GA, what were your sources?
So you can go with any of the current affair magazine that is published by any of the coaching institutes. So I'd recommend referring to any two, not depend on only one class, any two classes. And secondly, you should be thorough with at least 6 months of current affair. So for that, I think before just 10-15 days before the exam, a lot of classes, so including EduTap, they put up a marathon series or something like that, where an entire month's compilation is done. So I think that helps a lot during those last few days. And continuous revision is the key, continuous revision for GA. So I'll just show you one thing. So whatever I came across in the newspaper or say during revision, so I used to write it down as one-liners. So this entire book is filled with one-liners of GA. So entire, there's 20-30 pages of just one-liners filled. So whatever new you come across, just note it down, because none of our memories are so strong to remember 1,000 questions. So note it down and go through them again and again. So I used to go through this book even right before the exam. Don't stop revising. It's more important. Just write it down in one line and go through it again and again and again.
Okay.
I think revision is the key, and online platforms, marathon series helps a lot. And two of the current affair monthly magazines of any two reputed classes will do.
Okay. So you used to study the monthly magazines of any of
Yes,
the institutions, and then
yes,
you were like you also used to give them like marathon series and all. That is
yes,
like a mock test kind of thing.
yes, yes,
Okay, so like questions that helps in the revision means how
yes.
much you remember and all.
Noting down any points that you come across.
Yes, and noting down like you also used to like in the magazine from the magazine also you used to note down the notes and
Yes,
all.
yes, because again, it's not feasible to go back to that 100-page magazine. So it is difficult to go through the entire 100 pages of magazine again and again. So you have to study 6 months. So you can't go through 600 pages just before the exam. So it's better to compile them into 2 to 5 pages of your notebook. So write down only the important part. So there are certain things that you come across frequently and it's registered back of the mind. So that's not necessarily to note it down, but note down which are the important points. And one more thing that I would like to add is for ESI. ESI is when you're studying any scheme or say any program, government program, you should go through 2 or 3 steps more. Not just which ministry is conducting that exam or how much allocation, budget allocation. You should also go through 1 or 2 features of that scheme or 1 or 2 objectives of the scheme or who are the beneficiaries or what are the conditions for the beneficiaries. So I think that helps in the mains part because questions RBI asks is not very they are in depth schemes and other anything that you're studying a bit in detail helps.
Yes. Like there were questions in which the objectives and the features were given, and then you have to find the incorrect kind of questions also can come or they come. So yeah, in that study helps. So it was like, yeah. So your strategy in GA was to make the notes, and from there you used to revise. And as well as you said that 6 months of GA is enough for the phase one. As,
Yes, these are yes.
and for phase two also 6 months of the ESI
Yes,
for.
more
Okay
for
then.
scheme 6.
So now I think we can move to the phase two part. Before that, I wanted to ask you, when you were starting with GA, was there any fear inside you that how will I be able to cover? And there are so many new, so many areas.
Yes, yes. For me, I think learning or memorizing all factual things was kind of scary. Memorizing 6 months of current affairs, so many facts, so many names, so many digits was scary. But then I think once you start, not being afraid and starting, at least start is the first step. Once you start and get familiarized with what all is there, you find a pattern in it and it gets easier. So you can always overcome them.
The fear. Okay, so now starting with the phase two, we will start with the English part. How did you start the exam? Like from essay, Pressy, or reading
So,
comprehension?
so there, I think I started first with reading comprehension because that is my forte. Like, you don't have to use so much of your imagination. There are answers there in the paragraph. You just have to structure it well in your own words. So that I started with that first, and then I moved on to Pressy because again I knew in, essay. I'm sorry, essay had more words, so it'll take me more time. So I started finishing off the smaller and the easier parts first. Started with RC, completed that, moved on to Pressy. Pressy again, you don't have to think. You just have to look at what is written, shorten it down in your own words, make a gist of it, and type it. So there's less think involved there also. So these two I completed, then moved on to essay. So essay, I think, is the deal breaker in English. If you because in RC and Pressy, everyone is going to score almost similar marks. So the quality of essay matters a lot in English. And once you read the question, whichever what are the options, and you decide whichever topic you want to write, I think you should give at least 2 minutes to 2 minutes or 5 minutes if you have a lot of time on your hand. And I think in phase two, you have a lot of time in your hand. So you have that leisure of just noting down what you want to write in essay and then start typing. So not the essay should not be very abrupt. It should have a proper starting. There should be a body, and then there should be ending. And quoting good examples or organizations or reports always helps in the essay. So I think this is the chronology which I went with: RC, Pressy, essay. and I focused more on the quality of essay than just filling the words.
Okay.
So that is
So
what I followed.
before the phase 2 exam, what were the sources, or how were you practicing for the English exam, for the English section?
So since I had already studied English for NABARD grade B, grade A, and I had done Narveer sir's classes on EduTap, so I didn't have to study separately as such. So only so Pressy and RC was more or less covered with that.
Like, what were your sources for the English? Did you only do the mock questions, or you were also following some source?
So for English, I had already studied for NABARD grade A, and I'd done Narveer sir's classes on EduTap. So I didn't have to study separately. For an essay, I think I needed to be more updated about what was going on. So I used to follow the newspaper. So quoting examples or specific reports from the newspaper helps in essay. And I think studying GA also helps for the same. Like while you're studying GA and you come across any reports, any factual figures, I think quoting those in the essay helps a lot. So for essay, there's no it's a specific source, but you should be able to answer the question. Like whatever, you should be familiar with the questions. So for that, you should solve mocks and get them evaluated. So for English, I think you should solve, like, type it down. You can't just go there and type. You should practice it
Yes.
once, at least on a Word file, or get it evaluated.
Okay. So you should be practicing the typing in the Word file usually, and that helps like in the exam also, because it is in the computer. It is not pen and paper, so it will be
Yes,
helpful to type.
one more thing, ma'am. When you're practicing, it's better if you practice on an old keyboard, because that's the kind of infrastructure you get in the exams, and not on a very new or the laptop keyboard. So I think getting used to getting familiar with the hard keys is very important there, because it slows you down.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Then we will move to the ESI part now. Now we have understood the sources and the how to give the English exam. Like his structure was that you start from the RC and then you go to the Pressy and then the essay. And he also told you many sources the EduTap Narveer sir. Structure is good, he teaches very well, and so you can follow him, as well as you can give the mock test for increasing your speed, as well as he told you the key that you have to change the keyboard to a old one. So now we can move to the ESI. ESI, sources that you followed.
So very basic. You always start with basics, which are so in RBI in the notification gives out a very long list of sources such as Uma Kapila, and also those are very high end books, and I would not recommend candidates to read those, because reading and completing those itself might take 6 to 7 months. So it's better to go with any compilation made by classes. And if you're very new to economy, I think start with 11th standard economic textbook, which is very basic. So once you're done with basic, then you move on. So since I'd prepared for CAC, I didn't have to basically refer to any specific RBI specific notes. But economy, I think you start with basics, then move on to any compilation of any classes, which it helps. And yes, so out of those 100 marks, 50 are for the objective. So there, what you can do is you should go, like I said this before also, you should read any scheme, any program, or any initiative in a bit of detail. There's always 4 to 5 options given in the phase 2 exam for any scheme, and we are asked to identify the component which is not a part of the scheme, or some figures like the monetary figures which are not part of the scheme. So there, I think studying a bit in depth helps. So, and for schemes, I think EduTap's Telegram channel has these 5 to 7 to 10 pages PowerPoint presentation PDFs, which they upload on a frequent basis. That helps in the scheme part.
Okay. So the sources are, you can follow different magazines of different channels and all, and you can get it through schemes, especially is very important for the exam for the ESI part, and that you can follow from different sources, as well as current affairs. So how you were covering the current affairs in the
Again, the
ESI?
same. So for ESI, if you see this year's questions, the subjective ones, they are quite straightforward. So once you go through the notification, I think any candidate who is preparing for the phase 2, they should prepare individual point of the syllabus. So if in the syllabus it's given budget, so you should study budget properly. If it's given world development report, you should at least not the entire report, but go through a gist of that report. So every point of syllabus in ESI or FNM, which is mentioned in the syllabus, should read that properly and prepare that point very properly. So for ESI, I think budget and economic survey is a very important component, and there are direct questions. So there is the direct question on budget in the subjective part. Then there's almost like direct questions. Give us any 5 important aspects of the budget. So these are direct questions from the syllabus or from the component of syllabus. So I think sticking to the syllabus, being very focused is what is necessary instead of going through the entire book list which RBI gives, which is very time consuming.
Okay, so the sources you can follow, as well as you need to understand the syllabus. You need to like cram the syllabus for like following the sources also, because many things are provided that is unnecessary. So you have to like select your what you are studying, and then you have to remember all of this. And for the schemes also, as you said, that schemes are important, and the budget and all, they ask the direct questions. You have to study in depth for the schemes, but for budget and all, you have to study it like properly. Okay, so cover the syllabus, that's the main point. Now, FM, like what were your sources for finance and management?
So I was totally new to management, not finances, kind of covered in the previous sources that I said, but management is totally new. Anyone who is new to management, I think, should go with like if they don't have any proper guidance or any notes of their own, I think referring to any classes notes or a compilation of classes, or maybe joining a short short course on management would help them a lot, because studying independently, it didn't work out for me. So some parts where I knew I was doing well, so such as ESI, I could handle on its own. I did not join any classes, but management was something new, finance and management. So I enrolled for a short course on just on finance and management, and I think that helps. And apart from that, again for management, if you go by the syllabus, it is very vast in the sense if you study just one aspect of it and decide to study on its own, it's very vast. So it is better if you have a compilation of that thing, and I think classes provide. But apart from that, again, I would suggest the syllabus is the key, because this year itself questions were directly from the syllabus. So there's a in syllabus there is corporate governance. In the question paper we had a question directly on corporate governance. Then again, Basel norms, it was there in the syllabus. You had a direct question on that. Then there was a question on where you had to write a short para on regulatory bodies such as SEBI, Exim, NABARD, NHB. So these are, if you see the syllabus, it is line to line in the syllabus. So I think studying syllabus wise and referring to a compilation or some guidance from some classes will be a good form.
Okay. And in this year only, the pattern changed. Like the descriptive was added in the exam. So what was your reaction? Like you liked it, or you were like you were disheartened or something?
So I think it worked in my favor because I am used to framing answers. So so that I think worked in a favor of any candidate who is preparing for descriptive exams such as UPSC or NABARD, say. So there it worked in their favor, but we never know. Next year the pattern might change. So I think remaining flexible is quite important in such regulatory body exams. But descriptive always works because there is a slight discretion where even though you don't know the precise answer, you can always work with words and get marks.
So according to you, what is a good structure of writing an answer, descriptive answer, in FM and ESI both?
So I think understanding the question is the most important part, because a lot of time we just see a word such as corporate governance and just start with it. But you should understand what that question is asking in relation to corporate governance, and accordingly the first part of the answer. So first, basically, if it's a 20-mark answer, then you can elaborate a bit more. If it's 15 marks, then you have to keep it short but be to the point. So first part of the answer should indicate that you have understood the questions. So if it's asking on something on demographic transition, which was asked this year, okay, so the question was you should write about demographic transition of India. So first part of the answer should explain that you know what demographic transition is. Then in the second part, move on to explaining what are different phases of demographic transition, and then concluding by adding a relevant current affair data point or something which Niti Aayog has said. So that helps. I think keeping the answer precise to the point and adding a data point of current relevance helps in getting more marks.
Okay. So the learning that we got from you is that you need to understand the question and then you need to break down the question in smaller parts so that you can answer as per so. Like in demographic transition, you said that you told the meaning of that and then you told the phases and then any data that you knew, then you added on that. So like break the question in smaller parts so that you can understand it well and you can explain it well so that the examiner can also understand what you are writing. Okay, sir. So now I think we have covered everything. In ESI, there was a question that I forgot to ask before. That while covering ESI, that you had started an integrated preparation from GA only, like during the first phase. Like
For
you,
ESI, yes. So ESI, you don't differentiate between pre and mains. I think studying ESI as a part of GA itself helps. Like not separating, oh, this is for mains, I'll keep it for later. You should read everything thinking you're gonna go till the end.
okay. And did you refer any newspaper for ESI and GA?
Yes, so I used to refer Indian Express, but there is no hard and fast rule. Candidates can always refer to any financial newspaper as well.
Okay. And can you tell us that how you used to study, like read the news articles and all that? So many useless articles are also there, no?
Yeah. So again, syllabus is the key, which is the guiding light for it gives you a blinder that what specific news should you read. So after RBI comes up with any report or any monetary policy or any monetary policy report or any other report, annual or say bi-monthly, or any press conferences held. So there are specific articles just related to that. So now that you're giving an RBI exam, you should definitely read those and extract most important information. And I used to make pointers out of that. So if suppose there's an article in Indian Express which gives you a gist of the current RBI policy, so why it kept it unchanged. So
Yes.
there's an editor's take on it. So make 4 to 5 points out of it, pros and cons, and just make digital notes out of it. So I think those help for the phase 2 exam. But understanding the entire thing throughout the preparation helps in all the phases. So there's no boundaries, hard boundaries as such.
Okay. Okay. So I think now we can move to the interview part. Like, how was the panel? Yes, please.
Okay, so before that, I would also recommend all the aspirants who are giving this year that to read the RBI staff college document, which is on the RBI website. So a lot of us read that just before the interview, and even I did the same. But while reading it for the interview, I realized that a lot of questions from phase 2 and phase 1 were directly from that document. So it's just a 200-page document, and I think if I would have studied that, I would have scored even more in phase 1 and phase 2. So I think if candidates read the RBI staff college document on function and working of RBI, which is available on the website, it will help them a lot in phase 1 and phase 2. There are direct questions from it, and it helps a lot. That is, I would suggest. And now moving on to the interview. So how did I prepare? So again, that is the first thing. So I read the RBI staff college document, because since you're going to that organization, the first thing you should focus on is knowing what it works, what are its functions, what are the departments, and what is its need in the organization. So these are the basics that you should work on. And secondly, there's a biodata form that we are supposed to fill after the first exam is cleared. So that biodata form goes to the interview panel. So I think preparing on each aspects or each point, say you've entered some hobby or some achievement. So anything that you enter there, you should have at least 5 to 6 points to talk about. So that I think is a right strategy if you're preparing for interview. Otherwise, you have sufficient amount of days for the interview where you can revise everything. But I think the primary source would be the RBI staff document, policy document.
Okay. So you told something new that instead of just reading the document in the last time of the interview, like for the interview, you can read it in the starting only, so that you can, like, it has many important things that can come in the phase 1 and phase 2 exams also. So that will be important for the aspirants that are watching. And as well for the interview, your biodata, your, like, whatever you are writing there is very important. You need to know everything, because they can ask any question related to your
Yes.
biodata. You are writing it, so you should know what you are writing, what you are working in. Okay. So like now the question is, how was the question, sir? Like it was very technical, or it was like the panel was very cordial and they were asking simple questions only?
No, the panel that way was very cordial, and it's a diversified panel. I think there are specific panel members only for technical, and there are specific panel members only to judge your soft skills. That is what is my interpretation. So it started with the chair where they asked, "Why do you want to join RBI?" and what is the need of a central bank in India, in an economy like India. So, and after that, it started like as soon as I gave the definition, which is the objective motto of RBI, then they picked up a word, ki what is financial stability? And then they asked who is the most apex body in financial stability of India. So there it goes on. So I think what they're judging is my understanding of the organization. So if you're preparing for this organization, you should know how it works and why you want to join. You should be clear about it. So that is, I think, that first panel member was just trying to evaluate. Then it moved on to the second one where they asked very basic questions about banking sector, very basic definitions or basic concepts. So again, that I think every candidate should be familiar with or should be prepared with once they are preparing for phase 1 and phase 2. Then moving on to the third one, the lady member, she asked me about my hobbies and my achievements, which were there in the biodata form. So there will be specific questions on the hobbies. So I recommend not to give out any random hobbies which you just, so suppose there everyone in India is a cricket fan, so you shouldn't just write cricket in your hobbies because there might even be specific questions. So in the interview, if you're writing any sport, so recently the Olympics got over, so you should know who all won the gold, silver, or which player represented India. So you should know very specific details about that. So I think you can't just uh, bluff on the hobbies or the achievement part. Should be very specific. And the last member, it was I think the member was there to evaluate the soft skills. So they were trying to give me a situation where what would you do? Then there was a question on there's a question whether why shouldn't RBI start printing money? So those are very basic questions where each one of us can answer, but they want to evaluate how I answer them or what is my take on it. You shouldn't be very extremely opinionated in the interview. You should be very moderate, and your vocabulary should be like a government officer. You're gonna be an RBI officer. You can't use words very bluntly. So that I think is evaluated apart from the personality. So it's a full 360-degree interview. It's nothing specific technical or soft skills. And there were questions where I was not able to answer also. So you should be in that state of mind where you can say, sorry, I do not know the answer, or I cannot recollect it right now, and move on. You shouldn't be stuck there and live in that negative thought.
Yes, yes, very nice. So yeah, you should, like, if you don't know the answer, you can just tell them that you can't recollect it. And instead of like going around the question and wasting their and yours times also, that also like put a negative image of
Yeah,
yours.
time is very important because the interviews are hardly 20 minutes, 15, 20, 25 minutes. Mine went on for 20 minutes. So there you can't afford to waste timing and spinning words there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And whatever, like, what I understood from you is whatever you are writing in your biodata, in your, and whatever you are saying, the questions will be asked from there also, only. Like if you are
Yes,
telling about the
yes,
monetary policy, they can ask anything about the monetary policy. So you should
yes, yes.
choose your words very like
Yes.
finely.
If you
Yeah.
have a background in banking, or there are many people who work as a PO and then move on to RBI. So you should be familiar with what work you're doing or the financial statement of your bank. So I was asked a question whether I had read the balance sheet of RBI, not the specific figures, but whether I knew what was on what side, assets and liability side. So you should be familiar with wherever you're working, or you should be familiar with the basics. And there was one thing. So one of my hobbies is numismatics, which is the hobby of collecting coins. So as expected, I prepared. I was asked whether I had read the Coins and Coinage Act of 2011. So now I've written numismatics, but I should be also thinking 2 steps ahead. How does it relate to RBI? So I should know the specific act or the year or what are the clauses. I was asked a few, in a very short man, in 2 lines, I was asked to explain that act. So that ways you should prepare. So another hobby was reading books. I was asked to summarize the last book that I had read. So again, whatever you write on the biodata, it could act as your very strong point. It could act as a point gainer where you can already be prepared for the questions.
That was really nice understanding these things from you, and the way you like tell the things, I can see that the interview you have prepared a lot for the interview. Can we know the
Yes.
marks that you got for the interview?
So in the interview, I got 45 out of 75, whereas I was expecting a bit more. But I think where I went wrong was I have a habit of talking. So I would not there. I was not like I was continuously answering till the panel member their faces are such that you cannot make out whether they are happy or sad. Like they are satisfied with the answer. You cannot make out. So we tend to keep on speaking until you get a sort of a visual approval from them. So I think just answer it in a crisp manner. It will help the candidates. I think that is where I couldn't score a lot. I couldn't be crisp.
Okay, that was nice. And did you practice for the mock interviews and all?
Yes. I gave at least 3 interviews, and I gave one at the EduTap also. So the EduTap one, they had called ex-CGM of RBI and NABARD, and they guided us well. So one of the things the sirs from NABARD, that sir had told me that go through the RBI website before the interview. And I think it helped because a few questions were directly like what is financial stability, and it is given on the website. What is the function? Why do we need a central bank? It is given on the website. So I think that guidance helps. So giving mock is important.
Yes, okay. And from the mock, like what learning did you get? Like you would have analyzed yourself. So
Yes, from the mocks, I think I was lacking more on the technical side than on the soft skill side. So there, I got very specific guidances that what to study and what not to study. Like that sir told me to go through the website and any word that you find on the website which you don't understand, like just read through it. So that is a very specific learning that helped. Secondly, in the one of the mocks, I was told to listen to the question carefully and answer only what they are asking, not just keep on repeating or not just say what you know. So I think that is 2 things that I learned a lot, which are important.
so yeah, you should hear the question very nicely so that you can answer according to the question and not go here and there around the question. Just answer to the point, short and crisp. And you should give like mock interviews so that you can analyze yourself and what you are lacking, and the other people might tell you many new things that you didn't know before. So yes, I think we can end it here. Like before ending, I would like you to tell a message or say a message to the aspirants that the freshers also and the aspirants that have been working to get to the RBI grade B for a long time. Any message?
So my message would be, yes, it's a simple message that it's what I've learned from giving so many exams is it's not easy, and once you start, it's nothing is easy, but persistently working towards it, persistently working through your flaws or working through your shortcomings is the key to success, and not giving up so soon. So go through, like you should know what the exam is demanding from you, and try to be that person, inculcate those habits. So not giving up any soon and consistently trying is, I think, what worked for me.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It was really nice talking with you, and I also learned many things. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.